So I'm here today with Professor Nilay Shah from Imperial College London. And Nilay, like with all of these interviews, we always start by giving you an opportunity to introduce yourself. So please, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Nilay Shah. I'm from Imperial College London. I was recently head of department and I do research in the field of process systems engineering.
Good, good. And can you tell us a bit of your background, how you came into this field? Because process systems engineering has quite a prestigious history there at Imperial College.
Yes, so I was very lucky actually. I did my PhD under the supervision of Professor Roger Sargent and Professor Kostas Pantelidis, two leaders in the field of process systems engineering. Of course, Roger Sargent is often thought of as the founder of that discipline.
Mhm.
And he went on to set up something called the Center for Process Systems Engineering, which is a collaboration between Imperial College and UCL. And it's endured for a very long time. And in fact, it's just been rebranded as the Sargent Center for Process
Oh,
Systems Engineering.
okay. Thanks
And
for sharing that. I personally wasn't aware of that. Good to know.
yeah, and so it continues to do research in the use of models, data, algorithms, optimization in the design, operation, and control of chemical processes.
Great. So staying on that topic for a minute. So, with this rebranding, is there any shift in the focus, or are you sort of is the center itself moving in new directions? Because we have already spoken with other editors of the journal, for example, Arthur Schweidmann, and he's handling manuscripts in the area of machine learning for chemical engineering. So, is this part of the refreshed focus of the Sargent Center there?
Yes, so the field of process systems engineering continues to evolve. So
Hmm.
there are bigger topics like sustainability, which have become important. And then the other big driver in our field is digitalization. So the understanding of how data and new digital tools can help design better chemical processes, make process development more rapid, and improve online operations.
Fantastic. Thanks for that. So, can you tell us a bit about your work with the journal? So, part of the purpose of these interviews is to really allow the wider community, and that community is our readers, it is our authors, to get to know the editorial board. So, we have some amazing people on our editorial board, but few have really had the chance to meet them all personally. So, that's why we're doing these videos. So to get your work as an editor a bit more out there to the community, can you tell us what it's like for you personally? How do you find it working as an editor for chemical engineering research and design?
So as an editor, I look after the area of process systems engineering, excuse me, along with several other subject editors.
Hmm.
And in process systems engineering, we're looking for really good quality papers that are doing one of two things or both. One is advancing the methods themselves, so coming up with new methods for designing or operating processes. And second of all, call applications. So applications, particularly in new areas of chemical engineering like sustainability, bio-based processes, new pharmaceuticals, new energy-based systems that have a strong chemical engineering content. And we are beginning to see a huge amount of interest all over the world in exactly these two topics.
Fantastic. Okay, so I guess one of the features of our journal, Chemical Engineering Research and Design, is that it's a very broad journal that really covers all aspects of chemical engineering. And how do you see that relates to the publishers and to the readers of these papers in the areas of process systems engineering? Do you see that as a benefit or as something that takes away from papers that could be perhaps published in more specialized journals?
Yeah, this has generally been a challenge for defining what is chemical engineering.
Hmm.
So the core of chemical engineering has more or less stayed the same, and we've just become better at understanding materials, catalysis, transport, reactions.
Yeah,
But the domain of chemical engineering keeps changing.
yeah.
So whether that's in developing thin film materials, in developing energy systems, in developing water processing or waste processing, the domain keeps expanding. And I think we should be comfortable with that because I think it's about how you apply those chemical engineering fundamentals to new challenges.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I think there's a lot of benefits for our authors to publish in a journal like Chemical Engineering Research and Design that has as its readership people working and researching in all of those aspects that you've just mentioned. So we really do encourage people to submit great research or applied chemical engineering articles to our journal for the purpose that they don't just target the narrow readership of a particular subfield or very specific aspect of a topic, but they can reach a very wide authorship. I guess that goes a little bit to how they write their papers though as well, right? For a journal like ours, that they do want to make it at least understandable and the relevance of it clear to a slightly wider readership than they might if they send it to a very, very specialized, very narrow focused journal. Good.
Yes, that's right. So I think an important aspect of how the papers are written is that the average reader can be thought of as a professional chemical engineer that's interested in chemical engineering research. So you want to show the chemical engineering implications and the implications of the application itself.
Wonderful. So you would be very well aware of some of the changes that are occurring in our journal, because actually many people seeing this video would understand, but you are a colleague of Professor Jerry Heng, the editor-in-chief of the journal. So you two probably see each other much more often than other editors see Jerry. But Jerry has really taken some new directions with the journal since becoming editor-in-chief. And some of those including making the editorial board much more diverse, taking steps to attract articles from a much more diverse set of authors in all aspects of diversity, but in particular geographically. And we are doing other things in particular. Jerry might mention this in an upcoming video perhaps, with the special issues that we present each year, or themed collections, whether you call it a special issue or a themed collection. But there will be some in the coming year with a focus on diversity. And I think that's a really positive step for our journal. So I just want to give you, this open question. Do you have any comments on diversity in chemical engineering, and in particular, diversity on publishing in chemical engineering? Because we are here to talk about our journal, Chemical Engineering Research and Design.
I'm delighted that the journal has taken this direction of thinking about diversity. I think engineering still has a lot of work to do as a discipline.
Mm-hmm.
It's still the case that when you look at publications, we are attracting from a particular part of the world primarily, and also from, if we think about gender, age profile, ethnicity, and so on, there's a lot of work to be done. So putting it out there that we are prioritizing, at least for some of our issues, and then more generally in terms of our whole approach to editorial board and attracting publications, the principle is to have a more diverse set of authors across all categories. I think is really important, because engineering is the kind of profession that it's too important not to reflect the population of the world. It has so much to offer, and it's going to be so important in dealing with strategic global challenges that everybody should be able to make a contribution. So I'm delighted that the journal is at least making its own, modest contribution globally, but it's setting the right direction.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you on that. And I guess one message that you and I, as well as all of the editors and everyone associated with the journal, can convey is that we welcome contributions from all authors, from all institutions, from all parts of the world, and from all people working in those institutions. So no one should feel that they can't contribute a manuscript for consideration in our journal, and we can certainly guarantee that we as editors and as an editorial board are making extra effort to consider all of those manuscripts fairly. We won't go into the wider discussion, but it's certainly an active discussion in the field of publishing, is the aspect of blind and double blind peer review. So that's something we don't do at the moment with our journal, but a very small number of journals do that now, use double blind peer review. So the reviewers of the article are actually blind to the names and affiliation of the authors. So perhaps that's something we can look at in the future at one of our editorial board meetings. Nilay, you talked a little bit about your work as an editor. What do you find challenging in working as an editor for the journal?
I think the main challenge is dealing with a large number of publications. In our area is a popular area.
Yep.
And so we do receive a large number of manuscripts. We've only got a finite number of things that we can publish. So it's inevitable that we will disappoint some of our submitters. It's important, of course, to get good quality reviews and timely reviews. And so that does sometimes mean I have to chase the reviewers. We're a busy community, but I think people know that the system only works if they all participate actively. So I guess these are generic challenges. I think there's another interesting challenge, which is really around how do we horizon scan and make sure when we're thinking about things like special issues, we are really aligning ourselves with the hot topics of the day. And that's where, discussing with our broad community of colleagues within the editorial board is really helpful.
Yeah, this is fascinating actually, because as active researchers, we all receive a lot of invitations from a wide spectrum of publications asking us to submit to their journals. And I personally think that some of those publishers, some of those publications are particularly sharp at identifying these new topics and getting in there quickly and almost aggressively seeking out contributions. And different people respond to those invitations in different ways. But I would agree with you that perhaps as a journal, we haven't always been the fastest moving in responding to new trends.
That's right. I think we need a balance there, because there are some publishers that are almost, I think, overdoing it and putting out too many special issues. So obviously a special issue has to be special and not run of the mill. And so we just need to find that balance, which I think we're doing quite well.
I think we are, and definitely the movement is in the right direction with our journal, because we do have quite a bit of momentum and enthusiasm in the editorial board at the moment, and that makes it a fun place to be. Yeah. So, do you have any sort of general comments on the profession? I would probably go back and touch on some words you used earlier around global challenges. What do you see the role of chemical engineering being now and into the future?
So, as I always tell my colleagues, and they mostly agree with me, I see a golden age of chemical engineering coming. Every industrial process has to change, and that means an amazing set of opportunities for chemical engineers to have an impact on the way the world works. Most big economies now have set net zero targets. Net zero means, as I say, massive changes to energy systems, to industrial systems, to transport systems, and ultimately, new technologies, for example, to remove CO2 from the atmosphere, which is, of course, a classical chemical engineering problem. So I'm really excited, especially for our students, because I think they're going to go into the most amazing workplaces with the most interesting things to do, with massive transitions, and the need actually to employ those engineering fundamentals to things that we can't even anticipate. And that, of course, means from a publication point of view, we can see some really exciting things coming down the line.
Yeah, I can only 100% agree. We all wish we were younger for various reasons, but at least one at the moment I see is the absolute breadth and excitement in job opportunities for chemical engineers. If you just glance at the moment at the sort of recruitment of graduate or early career chemical engineers at the moment, there are the most incredible positions available, doing really exciting stuff in these kinds of transitionary fields that you've just mentioned. And these jobs didn't exist when I graduated. There were no such things. So I absolutely agree with you. I also think it's a wonderful golden age coming up for chemical engineering. Of course, that's the very optimistic and positive way to look at it. The other way to look at it would be that these changes are absolutely necessary and urgent, and they need to be made regardless of whether chemical engineers are optimistic and enthusiastic about it. I guess we see chemical engineering as one of those unique professions that has this whole of system or systems approach to trying to develop new technologies and integrate them. And so there's a particularly important role for chemical engineers in the changes that are coming down the track. But the changes are coming regardless. So we want to get in there and make sure they're done right, and hopefully done as quickly as possible.
Exactly.
Good. Lastly, I wanted to touch, when as we're talking about changes and positive changes, again, when I interviewed Arthur, we talked a little bit about people contributing manuscripts to the journal that involve simulations, computation, data sets. And the way that we handled and published manuscripts in the past was typically at a minimum to provide a PDF, to provide a static snapshot in time of that work, and really often just the outputs or the results of that work. So Arthur really encouraged and urged people contributing manuscripts in the machine learning field to make sure they submit their code and make sure that the input data is available in a repository, and ideally everything is available with the manuscript that the work can be reproduced. So do you see that that's also possible, or is that a bit more limited in the process systems engineering area because at least some of the work is done with commercial software packages?
Yes, so I think in process systems engineering, we would also expect to see a trend, which really started in the life sciences and the computer sciences, of submitting, in addition to your manuscript, a whole range of other resources.
Yeah.
And those could include models, that could include input files, data. And regardless of whether you're using open source tools or proprietary tools, you can still submit things like links to input files or backup files, even if they are associated with proprietary tools. So we would expect to see that. I mean, I don't think it's something that we would mandate for the time being, but to encourage, not least because actually I think it's a really good way for researchers to make a name for themselves by submitting things that then other people use and then they cross-reference. So I always tell my researchers, don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Make your tools available. And I see that as a growing trend. I see that
Yeah.
particularly amongst early career researchers, that they're very open.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we try to communicate this as well, like you've just said, as a win-win. It's actually a win for the author who contributes the original publication as well, because it's very, very well known that when people provide that additional data that allows the work to be reproduced or easily modified, those manuscripts, those publications attract more citations. That work goes further if people publishing in an open and transparent way. So I totally join you in urging researchers of all stage in their career to try as much as possible to provide the input data, make the work easily reproducible, because it's in line with the ethos of scientific publishing. But there's definitely a benefit there for the authors, because they will get more citations, their work will get read and reproduced further. Yeah, totally agree. Thank you so much for your time today, Nilay. It's been great to catch up with you. It's really wonderful to have you on the editorial board and handling manuscripts in the area of process systems engineering. I wish you well. As the people watching this video might know, maybe people are watching this video in the years to come and they'll look back and they say, oh, that's another one of those videos recorded during COVID times. But I wish you good health and a bright future.
Thanks, same to you.